All right, guys. Good. Happy Sunday morning. This is Tommy G and Chuck Willig and Raul Jurado, and we're here on Sunday with the Outloud podcast, sponsored by On the Path. And we're here with Raul, and he is a retired major in the U.S. Army. Started out as an enlisted guy, worked his way up. So fantastic story, and we really want to talk to him about leadership and having a happy life and where we are in the world and things like that. So. Welcome, Raul.
Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Man, I can't believe you're spending your Sunday with us. That's pretty awesome for sure.
It's 12 o'clock here, so I'd typically be at the bar by now. So this is good for me.
This is better served, huh? Good,
yeah.
Good. Hey, the first question I want to ask you guys is what is the sources of your success and your sources of your failures? Can you talk a little bit about where those things came from, where you come from, and what you think your shortcomings are and your strengths?
Sure. I mean, what's always been the driver behind my success, I think, is the fear of failure, right? Understanding very early that there wasn't a lot to fall back on. You know a little bit about my background. I really don't care to talk too much about it, right, in terms of those early years. But, I was in a good place when I was very young. And it wasn't until I joined the Army in 1989 where I said, oh man, here I go. And I remember leaving, my mom was a little pissed off at me before I left permanently, whatever.
Sure.
But, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, sergeant comes picks me up, my mom, I had a backpack and I had probably about 2 pairs of underwear, and my mom gave me a $20 bill and said, hey, good luck to you. And got on it, and I knew, I was like, okay, what do I got to do?
But how long is this after graduation, Raul?
This is
a couple of months, right? Or a month?
Yeah, so I actually went in, so I graduated in June, ended up going to basic and AIT from August through January.
Okay.
Came back, I was a reservist initially, right? And I came back and just, again, just the same old conflicts, reared their heads and stuff, and it was just time for me to go permanently. Mm-hmm. So jumped on, decided to call, and I said, hey man, got to go somewhere. And they sent me to Fort Stewart, Georgia. And when I went, it was like, I knew, it was like, hey, look, this is it. It was just, But, I really fell in love with the Army, right? But in terms of that, right, going back to that is like, I knew there wasn't a lot to fall back on, right? And I didn't want to come back to the neighborhood because the neighborhood was just always trouble for me, right? So I had to move forward. And the one thing I attribute most of my success to, aside that fear of failure, is the people that were put in front of me, I mean, I've got relationships with all the key leaders I've had over my 23-year career that are, and plus 2 years of ROTC. And each one of these folks, I still have a great friendship. I mean, when I first came out of the Army, right, or joined the Army, I ended up at Fort Stewart, right? I get on this plane from LA, land in Savannah, Georgia. It's probably about 11 o'clock at night. Throw me on this little van, right, and we start driving up to Fort Stewart. This 2-lane highway, and it's about a 30-minute drive, and deers are crossing, right? You're seeing these armadillos, and I'm like, what did I just get into, right? I landed at Fort Stewart.
You're like, what freeway are we on?
Yeah, it was like, there's just nothing, right? And I'm like, man, what the hell did I get myself into? So get to Fort Stewart, they drop me out next morning. It's like a Sunday, and I got the day to myself. So I walk into Hinesville, Georgia. And Hinesville, Georgia is probably about the size of St. Paul, right?
Right.
So what do you call it? I walk out there and I see a Sears. I said, okay, there's a Sears. So I walk into the Sears, and I look, and the Sears is about as big as freaking the local 7-Eleven, right?
Right.
And then that's when I kind of measured. I was like, man, I'm in nowhere, right? But, day one, there was a gentleman from Brownsville, Texas, Leo Pena. He was a sergeant, right? And that guy took care of me, and he really walked me through, and he showed me what right looked like, and he kind of taught me, okay, hey, look, if you're going to do this, this is the way you got to kind of pursue. And he was a runner, right? And I used to run a little bit myself. So that was kind of our connection. But, him being, Mexican background, me being from LA and being from Brownsville, like that guy set me up for success. And then, as we kind of grew in that first unit, right, the Sergeant Major, Johnny Johnson, Command Sergeant Major Johnny Johnson, it was like, that guy, again, these are just, I'm this kid, just having, no idea what's what. I'm in this freaking, and these guys grab me, and, the Sergeant Major is a senior enlisted guy of the unit. I was with a unit called 4th Battalion, 64th Armor. went to Desert Storm at Big O. You know, we're uh, the friggin' point of the arrow. You know, going into Iraq. Never went into Kuwait. Saw a lot of conflict and stuff. As we come back, you know, Johnny took Sergeant Major Johnson took a liking to me, and he had a boxing team, and I got some good stories on the boxing, you know. But yeah, that guy just shaped me, and you know, and when he'd have all the first sergeants or the senior enlisted guys of the companies in a meeting, I was just a private first class. He would bring me in, he'd chew these first sergeants' asses, right, and the first sergeant would say, "Hey, he doesn't need to be here," and Sergeant Major said, "Yes, he does. He needs to see this." And that was kind of mentorship. This guy, you know, he really set me up, you know, and I could walk you through different phases of my life, but there's always somebody there who was, played a significant role of helping me bridge to the next level. Right.
I think that it's first of all, if I was going to write a movie about the Army, my sergeant major would be Johnny Johnson. That is a great freaking name right there. That is the epitome of an Army sergeant right there.
Let me tell you, that guy was probably about 5'4", black guy, just boom, just all muscle, a black belt. Huh? Yeah, and he was a black belt, and he just had this little raspy voice. And you know, when he told you something, you just listened. He just had that, you know, that presence.
The question that I have is, what about you? What about your persona? What were you showing that allowed him to be attracted to you? And why did he put you under his wing versus somebody else? Because I think if we can identify those things, then people in the young kids that are listening could present those things. What were you presenting that made him want to be with you?
Well, you know, so I was blessed growing up, right, with Rick and my brother Joey, right? We were very competitive up to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what it is. I mean, we text every day, and you know, somehow or another, we one up each other all day, right? And so you're always trying to figure out how to be better than the other, right? Mm-hmm. And what that took. And those lessons really took me over, you know, within the Army. I had to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to succeed? You know, again, Leo Pena told me, hey, look, this is what you need to do to survive or to excel in this world, right? And one of the things as a private, right, you got to learn to listen, learn to follow orders, right? To be a leader, you got to learn to follow. Because if you can't follow, you're not going to get anyone to lead. Big key lesson one, right? So I learned to follow, right? And, you know, I've always been above average at everything, but never excelled at anything, right? So that's kind of like, you know, so I always, but one of the biggest things was physical training, right? You know, you had to get that 300 on your PT test. And if you did that, it didn't matter what you did, they loved you, right? Oh man, this guy's a physical, you know, and so I could run, you know, I've ran a few marathons in my life, and I just, you know, I'd get out there and, you know, I remember drinking all night, walking in at 5:45, changing to my PT uniform, information at 6 o'clock, still trying to stand straight. And when it was time to run, boom, I'd fly, right? And again, they were looking for that, right? And really you know, it's Sergeant Major Johnson formed his boxing team. You know, he saw me as someone that he wanted as part of that thing. We'd fight all the other battalions, right? So for him, it was a sense of pride, right? We beat up the counter, you know, tanker unit. We beat up the infantry unit down there, right? And it was just like, you know, and so, you know, it just, I think that's, you know, from that young age, I kind of always had to figure out how to win, right? What did it take to succeed in this organization, this environment, wherever it may be? And you know, you got to read the tea leaves, right? Your leadership's going to change, right? Leadership's going to change, and the emphasis on X is now the emphasis on Y, and then so you got to make that adjustment.
I think I think we need to highlight that right now. I think that's
that listening component that I think is such a crucial lesson, you know, that some of us learned at some points in our career. Some of us took a little longer than others, but you know, that ability to listen as a follower, you know, as somebody who needs to be able to impress the powers that be. If you just listen, you can hit some marks that other guys won't hit. But also as as the leader, to be great listeners. And that's one thing that I've learned and worked real hard on over the years, is how important it is to listen, to be able to know how to lead, you know, and the individuals. So that's a great skill that, you know, maybe was impressed upon you early on, which I'm sure served you well.
Yeah, I think, and it got better as I grew older, right? My listening skills, my understanding. So what I do today is I do federal contracting. I I look for these large tier leveled opportunities, and we sell IT, but I can barely spell IT, right?
Right.
But yet, you know, I had a $200 million year in 2019 where I sold, these services on 4 different programs, and again, had nothing to do with my ability to talk IT, because again, I can tell you how to press the power button on a computer. If you got problems, hey, restart. That's as good as I get, right? But these complex programs, right? The thing I think I bring to the table is I've got some phenomenal folks I work with who know this stuff inside and out. And that's their strengths, right? And I don't pretend to be them. But when I go into a meeting, I know what I need to get out of that customer, right? And I can listen. They talk all this, the IT stuff and all that good stuff, but I just listen. I'm like, you know what, we're off base. You didn't catch this, or hey, you know what? And then before we go in those meetings, we do that planning. I'm able to make sure they're able to communicate. Because, when you're in live fire, right, sometimes you got this plan, but yet you go in there and you start talking about, whatever the topic of the day leads you to, right? And I'm able to just kind of bring these folks in and establish trust with folks, right? It's like, again, egos are out the door. You got an issue, I'll listen to you, and I'll try to figure out the right folks. And I'm not going to waste your time. That's the other piece. If you got a need and I can help fill it, I'm going to do my best, right? If I'm going to bring in the guys to address that issue, but I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to try to sell you something I can't. I can't come to you and say, oh man, oh yeah, and I'm not going to try to, okay, oh, you want shoes today? I don't know anything about shoes either, right? But maybe I'll pitch it to another company. I'll say, hey man, these guys are looking for shoes. You guys do shoes well.
Make
Go
the
talk to
connections.
them.
Yeah.
And the reason I do that, right, is because they come back to me later.
Right.
And that's all this thing. It's all relationships, figuring out who does what well, who you can trust, who you can't trust, and those folks that you can kind of hold hands and walk down the street with, those are the guys you want to stay with, right?
My father was a traditional salesman. He's a siding salesman back in the day, basically a used car salesman type of guy. But when he was teaching me about it in my teens, he always said that. He's always said, they will tell you how to sell them. You just listen to what they say. They will tell you how to sell them. And now this is popping up. It's almost like I'm having a deja vu moment, because here you are as a salesman, here you are as a leader, as a major, and you have to listen to people. And then I think about the structure that we have in place with the president, where he has a cabinet of people, he has senior staff, he has, the people in the war room there that he has to listen to. And the idea that he's not an expert, and the idea that you're not an expert, has to be an amazing benefit. Must make people feel like they're important. And I think I need to learn that. I feel like I go out to the softball field and I know everything. And I need to say, you know what, I'm not perfect at this. I need to listen to what the kids are saying. I need to listen to what the other coach is saying, and shut up a little bit for sure. And so I'm already benefiting. We're only 10 minutes in, so I appreciate it.
I'll tell you, that's critical, right? And I heard you make that statement. I was listening to some of you guys' interviews, just kind of get a sense of what you guys.
Well, you doing background checks on us, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta get intel. What do you call it? But he is spot on, right? Because I always tell people, people want to do business with people they want to do business with, right? Period, right?
Right.
And what do you call it? If you don't listen, and again, you waste their time, right? Like I do 10-minute meetings. Like I can get a company to commit to me at some work share in 10 minutes. Why? Because I don't want to talk and
Right.
BS you. And if I don't have it, I don't have it. But when I
Right.
do have it, I'm going to explain it. I'll be succinct. And hey, this is why. And they're like, okay, that makes sense. All right, well, I'm going to bring you in for X amount of work share, right? And boom, they're like, okay, that sounds fair. And but I'm always prepared when I have those meetings with those partners, right? Because I kind of understand where they sit on the deal. But, with the customer simultaneously, it's like, you got to know what they want. You got to know where they're at. You got to understand the politics. You got to understand who's close to them, who's not, right? Who they're pissed off at, and who, You can't go into a meeting with someone they're pissed off at, right? Because in government contracting, you got these things called protests, right? Somebody wins work, right? And the company they're competing against protests, and that just kind of delays this thing and delays this thing and delays this thing. And it's like the customer just wants to execute the work.
Right.
And there's like the percentage of protests that actually are found valid, right, and flip is so minuscule, right? But these folks will do it every time. Pretty soon, the customer's like, man, I don't want to deal with these guys.
Right.
Like, either you have it or you don't, right? It's like, you know.
Well, let me ask you a question, because a lot of the ex-military people that I've talked to, or they're friends of mine, one of the things when I poke at them enough, they talk about adaptability, and I think that's a little bit about what you're talking about, is their adaptability. How does that taught in the military, and how does that seem to be something that is comes out of military training, that the adaptability that these guys have, which again I think makes them better leaders?
Yeah, I think, one of the key phrases you always learn, you always got these key little things, but adapt and overcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Endure the suck, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, right? But it's like, hey, look, again, Desert Storm, right? I was a 19-year-old kid. I think about it now, my youngest son just turned 19, right? I was 19. I can't fathom my 19-year-old kid doing what we did. They put us in the middle of the freaking desert. I mean, middle of nowhere. No running water, no plumbing. I mean, we were just, no hot meals. And, it was just like burning our trash, digging cat holes, right? I mean, just like, and, you got two options. You can sit there and say, oh man, this sucks, and complain, and man, I want to go home. But you're not going home, right? You got to embrace your environment and say, okay, how do we freaking get through this? And you got a group of folks there, and they're all kind of like, okay. So that's what we're preparing for, right? The military, right? That's what we, huge emphasis on training is for those environments, right? It's like, hey, look, when you're, the Army is not there to put on parades and all that other crap, right? We're there to execute and win, U.S. wars. So everything is focused on that crappy environment. So there's a lot of things that they put into it, I mean, and the other piece, about the military that I love is always, it's based on, growth, right? Mm-hmm. Achieving that next rank, achieving that certification, getting into this position, right? And the Army, through my career, they provide you these career paths. Hit this mark, go this school. Hit this, get this position, go this school. And then, with each rank you get, you start getting promoted, and that's, that adapt, you got to adapt. How am I going to get that rank, right? Mm-hmm. Because that was, I made a staff sergeant in 5 years when I was enlisted, right?
Wow.
Which is like, I went from nothing on my collar to E6 in 5 years. Because the guys like Pena showed me the game early. Mm-hmm. Like, this is what, the promotion system then, I think it still is, was based on a point system, right? So to me, it was like a football game, like a basketball game. Shoot, if I score this many points, hey, I'm going to freaking win the game, right?
Right.
And the good thing about it is they would publish in the Army Times how many points everybody had in your MOS, your job.
That's
nice.
You
always knew where you stood. And everyone said, oh, the points are never going to drop down to where I'm at. And I said, well, why not? I said, and the reason is because there's 200 people ahead of you. How do you expect to freaking, you're ranked number 200 right now, right? You know where you're at every month. You know how to get points, right? Correspondence courses, PT tests, college courses at night. Just there's all kinds of different things that you had to do, which to me wasn't that complex. It was just, you just had to do it. You just had to execute, right?
Right.
And another thing, right, which this is one of my favorite stories I tell my kids, is like, correspondence courses were these books that they would send you by mail, right? And you had to do the books, and you turn them in, you get like 5 points or whatever the hell it was, right? Or 1 point for a book, what have you. But you could get up to 200 points. So I'd ordered 2 to 3 books, and at one point I was getting 5 books a week because I established a relationship with the lady who was mailing the books. She's like, it's our policy to only send 2. I was like, well, hey, look, I'm knocking these things out by Tuesday. By the time I send the mail, it's not even, you start sending them back. But there was times when I didn't get done my books, right? So Friday night when you lived in the barracks, right? In the barracks, it's like a dorm, right? Everyone's freaking drinking and having a great time. If my books weren't done after work on Friday, I'd go to my room and I'd knock out those books. And then it wasn't until those books were done, then I'd go join everyone and start drinking. I woke up the next morning just as hungover with all the beer stories and all the crazy stuff we did last night. But Saturday morning, I had promotion points.
Right.
Everyone else just weren't. And that was something that I said, you know what?
It's big.
That's what I got to do.
Did you see yourself separating then from guys? Is that where you can start to separate the guys that have the discipline to do the extra work like that? How did you see yourself in terms of, like, again, separating from there? I'm sure there were a lot of guys that wanted to get to those levels, but didn't have the discipline to follow through.
Sure. I mean, I'll tell you again, it goes back to my brothers, right? How do I separate myself from my brothers, right? How do I make more money than my brothers per year? How do I get a higher degree than my brother? Whatever it was, you're always trying to, that was our competition, right? Same thing applied. And the funny thing you say that, right, is I went to basic training with a bunch of folks, and I'd start to see them all over the place when I'd start, And some of these guys were still, specialists when I was a sergeant.
Right.
There's one guy, his name was Bustos. It was me, Bustos, and Emiliano. Bustos was Puerto Rico. Emiliano was from Brownsville, and then I was from LA. But, 3 Hispanic guys in our platoon in basic training, they used to call us the 3 amigos, right? But I'd always run into freaking Bustos all over the place. And I ran into him, I forget where it was, but I was a sergeant, he was a specialist. Then I ran into him in Panama. I was a staff sergeant, he was still a specialist. He's like, man, what the hell? So then I ran into him in Iraq in 2004, I think it was. And now I'm an Army captain, and he's a sergeant first class. And he looked at me, he's like, damn. He said, I'm never going to freaking beat you, right? But that was yeah, but again, even in the business I'm in today, it's like I'm always gauging who I'm competing with. I'm always trying to figure out where I'm at, where I'd scale. We're in DC. DC's, there's, thousands of guys like me, right? Business development guys. I've been with this corporation for going on 6 months, 6 years. And I see people flip every year, going, right? To be BD in one organization for 6 years is freaking, it's an anomaly, right?
Right.
I take pride in that in the sense that, I'm there because, I think I've demonstrated value, right? Mm-hmm. And that's it. I always want to be, I want to be a top performer. And sometimes, it's sometimes I'm there and sometimes I'm not there.
Right.
But, that's the other piece, another good story, right? When I was in ROTC, that's why I was going from enlisted. I went to Florida International University, and
FIU,
right? And man, there was a catcher that went to St. Paul, and I ended up meeting him. He was going to FIU at the same time. I forget his name, but Rick told me.
Nice.
Anyways, so the bottom line, I'm there, right? And I didn't take FIU or ROTC seriously, right? Because it was like I've already been through combat, I've already been a staff sergeant. You go through ROTC, and they're teaching you how to read a map, how to identify rank, how to put on a uniform. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I just, So my instructors really didn't take it too well, right? They're like, man, you got to get in here, and you got to, And I was like, I'm trying to get my degree. I kind of, want to go into, first gear for a while. And so at the end of it, they wanted to kick me out of ROTC, right? They're like, hey, man, we got to get you out of here. Right? You're screwing up, da, da, da.
Your old habits, Raul. Your old habits.
Yeah, my old habits, right? And now, so I'm about to get kicked out of ROTC, and I go in and I see Colonel Bobby Knotts, is a great man. He's in Grafenwehr, or not Grafenwehr, he's in Garmisch, Germany. Which, if you guys ever see Band of Brothers in the mountains at the end, that's where he's at. He's doing some stuff out there. But great guy. He gave me the best advice I think I've ever had in my life, right? He tells me, Earl, he says, when you're the best, he said, you're the absolute best. He said, but when you're the worst, you're the biggest shitbag I've ever met. Right. He says, you got to figure out where you're at. Here's the line. Here's when you're good. Here's when you're bad. When you start touching that middle point, and you start going back to bad, you got to bounce yourself up. And I don't think, I can't say that. I've rarely gotten under that bad element again, right? Because he's taught me how to gauge myself almost daily in terms of where I'm performing. And sometimes
So he knew you when you were both. He knew that you were a shitbag sometimes and you were a stud sometimes.
Yeah,
And
because I was in college, right? And, there tended to be a little bit of alcohol flowing and things like that, right? And, it's funny because, tradition of the ROTC battalion was, you'd go to this advanced camp and they would go in these, it's like 3-week tests, and you just you had to do all these things, right? And whoever came back with the highest score would become the battalion commander, right? Well, here I was, man, this part guy didn't care, but when it was time to perform, I got a perfect score when I left that course.
right.
And when I came back, everybody was like, how the fuck you do that, right? Because, again, to me, it was just stuff I'd already known, and I was just able, a lot of leadership components to it and other different things. And I just, when it was time to perform, hey, it was game time. I went out there, but they didn't make me the battalion commander. They're like, hey, man, sorry about that, but we're not going to do it. I was like, yeah, I get it. I understood, right? Because, hey, I didn't want that responsibility anyway.
Right.
Because it just, to me, it was like playing Army, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys who listen to it be all mad because they think ROTC is a great thing, but it is.
I'm sure the battalion leader was looking at you and you're like, no, not that one.
Yeah, he was like, he was like, man, who'd you pay?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like, but I had the sense not to go in there and fight with him about it because, I understood his decision, right? Like,
Well, that direction that you talk about the line and not passing the line. I mean, once you understand that, that's got to make sense, And I can see as a young guy, if somebody would have given me that, I would have gone, it would have made real sense to me, and I probably would have kept me from getting in a lot of trouble until I figured that out on my own. With that being said, define what you've learned as being good leadership. What are the elements that you can say are the top 3 or 4 or however many make sense to you? But what defines good leadership from your experience?
So I think first and foremost is, understanding the people you lead. Former Army Surgeon General of the Army would say, hey, man, brought in, Naja West. She would say, hey, treat everyone with respect and dignity, right? It took me a long time to figure out that, right? Because, you got these places of authority and you're directing traffic and you're like, hey, but you got to care about the people you lead, right? When you set up goals, right? It's like you set up an organizational goal. That's great. We want to be the greatest, unit in the world, right? Got it. But what does that mean to the individuals who are part of that organization, right? What's the value in it, right? Because that's, in this world, it ultimately comes down to me, right? Everyone's a me, right?
Right.
You got to get folks to understand, okay, what's the benefit of you creating this awesome unit, right? And, you kind of get folks to buy in because it's no longer about your interest. And, leadership comes down to the people that you lead, right? It's not about, it's not about you. When you learn, that, you try to drive an organization to a certain direction to accomplish certain things, it's not the guy up there barking, hey, we need to hit this, right? It's, the early Army definition of leadership, right, is the process of influencing others by providing purpose, direction, and motivation. I love that definition, right? You got to give these folks purpose, right? What is that drive behind, right? And then you got to give the direction. You got to have the plan, right? And then, what do you got? And then, that motivation, man. And so one is the people. 2 is you got to have a plan, right? You got to have a plan. You got to be able to kind of say, okay, look, these are our marks, right? I like to do things in phases, right? Because this is going to kind of give us, are we there? We're not there, right?
Yeah, a little short term, long term.
You got to be competent. You got to know what you're talking about, right? I mean, because folks are looking for you, man. It's like, you can't lead if you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because I've seen some leaders and you're just like, again, and understanding, you don't need to know everything, right? So when I ran a clinic, I was a COO equivalent of a clinic in Stuttgart. And when they asked me to go there, right, the clinic was in really bad shape. I think we're like, out of 19 clinics in Europe, we're like number 18 or something. They asked me, hey, we need you to go over there and help.
This is a medical clinic in the Army, right?
Yeah, medical clinic in Stuttgart. And Colonel Cano was an Army aviator, right? A medevac pilot. now running this clinic serving, AFRICOM, EUCOM, Marine Forces Europe. I think it was a 10th group, that was Special Forces 10th group. We had more stars out there than any other environment with the exception of DC, right? In a small community. And, Larry Connell's a good friend of mine to this day, ended up being the chief of staff for the Veteran Health Administration. Just outstanding gentleman, man. And he was able to kind of give us that organization, but in order to move it, right, he was able to trust me, and we had some leadership conflicts, right, within our organization. Right, one was a first sergeant who just did not want to buy into, the new direction, right, and I don't want to say too much about it, but bottom line is a pain in the ass. But what do you got? But Colonel Connell had to make decisions. Who's he go with? Does he go with this first sergeant, right, senior enlisted guy, or does he go with, this high-strung major who's just killing everybody?
Right.
Well, he kind of believed what I said, and then he kind of bought into it. We had a chief nurse, Colonel Mary Whitney, and then our doc was, I can't recall the doc's name, good gentleman as well. But we put together a concerted effort. We got the docs online, the nurses online, the support staff online, and we all kind of moved forward, right? So, he had a plan, he understood his environment, he understood the people, and I forget where I'm going with this point, but bottom line is we're able to make that clinic the #1 clinic in Europe.
But he went with a lesser ranking person to achieve his goals. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, he took some risk, and, it was kind of, but we did it right. But I mean, he
talk about that risk averse business, because I think everybody in the United States of America is risk averse now. I think everywhere that I exist, everything that every circle that I exist in is, what's the liability? Are we going to get sued? Can we practice sliding into second base on a softball field? Because what if the girl breaks her leg? Am I going to get sued? What if the girl gets beamed? What if, what's the deal with that? Because it's how do you take those chances in our society today? It must be very difficult for you.
Well, no, he's got to, you got to take calculated risk, right? You can't be careless. Mm-hmm. There's no, you can't be careless, right? You can't just say, hey, we're just going to do this, right?
Right.
In the Army, we got a risk assessment. Before any mission, right, you can go there, you can identify all your risks for this mission, whether it's training, whether it's not, and then you put in those mitigating factors to kind of reduce that risk, right? And then you go in knowing, but you understand what the dangers are going in, right? You got to do that. Even on the business side, right? We went on to some bids that we weren't necessarily best prepared. We went in and made a compelling argument. Said, yeah, what's the risk? Yeah, we may lose. What have you? Yeah, we don't know this, but this is where. But again, everything is assessing where you're at, right? I was listening to a book. What's it called? Ownership. I forget what it is.
Was it Jocko Willnick's?
Yeah, the Navy SEAL guys.
Yeah, Jocko. Extreme ownership.
Extreme. There you go. Extreme ownership. It talks about this obstacle course, right? Where the record's been there for generations, right? They got to go down this rope and they tie it and go. And this guy says, "You know what? I'm going to do it freaking head first." He gets on top of the rope versus going under, and beats the record, right? You got to take some risks, because if he would have fell. But hey, he's got the record, right? I mean, there's sometimes you just got to say, okay, look, if you want to move the needle and you want to change, you've got to take risks. You got to get uncomfortable, right? You got to get uncomfortable, because no one is you're not gonna grow by doing the same thing over and over and over, right?
That's such a huge point. I mean, that is something that across the board in any endeavor of leadership or following and creating a team, of any sort, that's such a crucial deal. I'm interested to know, a little bit about, because these aspects of leadership that we try and identify, I know you talked a little bit about consistency, and I think that's such a huge thing. And one of the things that I've learned over the years was behavioral modification. The more clear and concise you are with your directives and your rules and regulations, the more consistent you are at following through with any kind of punishments or consequences. That's how you change behavior and you get people to move fast. Was there a lot of training in your in the military about how to be great leaders? Did you guys do that type of stuff, or was it kind of let the cream rise to the top?
Well, I mean, it's both, right? I mean, there's, you know, from my perspective, we are developed very young to become leaders within the services, right? I mean, we're growing our leaders, right, for the next generation. I mean, I don't think, you got these elements of folks who are natural leaders, right? Folks who are natural, you name the skill set. But, there's, a lot of thought put in this, a lot of freaking, the mentorship programs we've got in place. I mean, we're looking at everything from every angle, right? And, I think the mentorship program is critical, right? Because it's one thing to read it in a book and kind of go through stories and kind of start talking through all that, right? But it's that personal experience and understanding. Because in this life, for me, I'm going to hit 50 here pretty soon, and I read these books, I listen to these things, and there's nothing I hear in these books or read in these books I haven't heard before, right? Because it's just kind of like, after a while, but the key thing is like, I think it becomes in the execution of it, right? I think that's where the military does well, right? Because as soon as you come in, when I came in as a lieutenant, they gave me a platoon with 45 people. Sergeant first class, great guy, Lawrence, Sergeant first class Lawrence was my platoon sergeant. Been in the Army 19 years, right? And I'm his boss, and I'm this lieutenant. Typically, lieutenants come in straight out of college, 23-year-old kid, now in charge of a guy who's been in the Army for 19 years, right? He's got a freaking lead.
Right.
And then you got all these kids, or not kids, but all these soldiers, sergeants, and young soldiers under your command, right? You got like 45 folks that you're responsible for. And you're responsible not only for the execution of the mission, right? Their physical health. You're responsible for their personal lives as well now. If they get in trouble in the middle of the night, what do you call it? Hey, why'd your soldier get a DUI? Like, hey, shit, sir, I wasn't drinking. Hey, I wasn't there. I was drinking at my house doing the right thing, right? I didn't drive. It's like, well, hey, he got DUI because you're not providing the right leadership, right? That's the mantra you'll see all the way up. You guys will see it when you start seeing admirals, right? Because that's when you start admirals and generals getting relieved, right? Because of the misconduct of the soldiers within their unit, right? Because they didn't set that command climate. The command climate that they set, that they established, was not, conducive to, military, lifestyle, whatever you have it, right? But the bottom line is, I think it all comes down to accountability, right? And that's one thing that we learned early, right? Is, we're going to give you this responsibility, and you're either going to succeed or you're going to fail. If you fail, right, it's no longer like me as a platoon leader. As if I failed, right, it wasn't only my fault. It was the company commander. It was the battalion XO.
That's missing today, Raul. That's missing today in society. There's a throwing people under the bus, cutting ties, nothing flows up. I think that's a huge difference between military.
But see, and I think in a sense those kind of generalities, right? It's all about the leadership to come in and create that environment, right? You've got to have accountability, not only for the folks that are under you, but for yourself, right? And when things go well, right, you guys know Coach Zeller. Coach Zeller used to coach at St. Paul, right? So what do you call it? So Coach Zeller coached me at Whittier. You really, and remember, whenever you score a touchdown, he'd get pissed off. He tried to celebrate, high five, anything. You say, hey, when you score, he says, just act like you've been there before.
Right.
Just say it's done, right? You get in, you're done, and hey, it's done. Now we're on to the next thing.
Mission
funny
accomplished.
Story about that, right, is Matt Tate, who's our COO of the company, we had a very good year in 2019, like I said, and my colleague, Sarah Carter, and I go in there, and we just won this big deal. We're briefing him on the next deal. But about 5 minutes into it, he's like, hey, wait a second. He says, I thought you guys were going to come in here and brag about your win. And I told him Zeller's story. I said, oh, sir. I said, hey, look. So I learned a long time when I was playing football in high school. I said, hey, you score a touchdown, hey, you just act like, hey, you've been there before. Not a big deal. I'm not here to sell. I don't want to go to star, right? So, but bottom line is, you got to create the environment of, hey, look, your success is when you succeed, again, I call it gold stars, I call it ribbons. I don't need all that, right? For myself, I know what I did to help us get to that point of success, right? And when things go bad, whether it was my fault or not, I take the heat. I go to the boss and I say, hey, you know what? I screwed that up. That's my fault, right? I'm bad on this, right? And again, when things go well, everybody likes to be praised in public, right? So you got to go down there, you make sure you praise and give credit where credit's due. Never say, hey, man, it was me, it was me, it was me. No, you freaking, and these are the guys who freaking won the deal, right? And it doesn't matter what your part was, it doesn't matter, right? You make sure, because and then folks appreciate that, right? Because, so you create that, and then things go wrong, if someone screws up, right? You don't chew them out in front of everybody, pull them back to the room and say, hey, look, one-on-one, and then you rip his ass, say, okay. And then when you see him in front of everyone, you treat him like everyone else, nothing ever happened, right?
I really like what you said about sort of that being uncomfortable thing, because I think people in the private sector strive for comfort. They can't wait to go on vacation. They have their lounge, their couch at home that's super comfortable, and they have a remote control for the TV, so they don't have to get up anymore. And I think people are, even myself, Raul, I have to admit, I've retired from coaching probably 5 times in the last 7 years. Like, that's it. I'm not doing it anymore. It's too much in my gut. I still get butterflies. It's in my gut, in my head, and we didn't win, and I didn't win the game. We didn't win the game, and I'm over it, and I feel bad, and I want to come home and kick the dog and all this stuff. And so I'm just going to retire. I'm just going to go to that pasture, and I'm going to be the cow just walking in the sunshine and not doing anything. But I keep doubling back. And people, hey man, we got a good team this year. Why don't you come out? I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go. I want to, I'm always looking for another piece. And, knowing that there's only one person that wins on the top, there's only one team that wins. I got
to tell you though, I think Tommy is a perfect example of that. Is that leaders, are kind of born, not made necessarily. I mean, the born leaders tend to rise back up and rise to the top and have that motivation, the compelling motivation in their lives to go back and do those things. Again, I think it's, we're fortunate to be able to talk to guys like you, Raul, and that have been through those things. And, I think that one of the most compelling things is, how do you teach? For example, I in coaching, half of the kids are knuckleheads, and you have to make sure you're going to have to teach them how to be good teammates, good leaders. There's another third, maybe, or whatever it is, another quarter of them want to be there. And then there's those guys that you can identify as leaders. Elite. How do you reach down to the bottom level and create the weakest link to strengthen the weakest links? I mean, how do you get to those guys, the ones that go, fuck the bosses, fuck the sergeants, fuck the majors. These guys we're just fucking getting tortured by these assholes. I mean, I got to believe that that's how it goes to some degree for some guys, and they get real bitter with being told what to do and shit. You can tell me, but how do you deal with those guys that need to come up to the next level to where they are good teammates and soldiers?
Well, see, the thing is accountability, right? Yeah, you got to set expectations. Either you meet them or you don't, right? And if you don't, we got to have a conversation, right? You're only as good as your weakest link, right? It's just kind of, because again, risk assessment, right? Where's your biggest risk, right? And so you got to get. I remember, so I coached quite a few years of youth football, right? And everybody had to play, right? So it's like, okay, look, I'm not just going to plug in a kid in a position, right, where I think he's going to have the least impact, right? No, I'm going to make sure I get that kid where he can perform in there, and he's going to be of value when I put him in. I'm going to get him there, right? And I'm going to make sure he understands, right? You got to, but again, it's
See,
an individual.
but most coaches, Raw, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Most coaches are going to focus on their elite players and their starters, and the second and third team is never going to get reps. And if they do, it's only going to be on scout team. It's not going to be in a position to improve their game. So, Mike, those kids are going to have 15 minutes of individual time to get better every single day, and then they're going to go get their ass kicked as the scout team. You know, how do you, that is, see, that's a complete, what you're talking about is completely different than what's happening in 90% of the fields in the world.
Well, because I think we've got different motivations, right? I think well, from what I see, and I stopped coaching a while ago just because it's a different world now, right?
Right.
We had that conversation before.
Right.
But again, my goal was to make sure all those kids, got something out of this, right? I was really there trying to make sure that, we're very fortunate. I was very fortunate. We had a few good seasons, but again, it was about every kid, learning something, right?
Right.
And again, right? It's like some kids are only out there because their dad played football, and now they want their kids to play football, and the kid's like, I got no interest in this, man.
Right,
All I want to do is, you want me to wear this? Like my youngest son, Eduardo, his football career was short, right? When they told him to put in a mouthpiece, he was like, no, I don't want to wear a mouthpiece. I'm like, well, you don't wear an mouthpiece? He's like, no, he's adamant. I'm not putting this thing in my mouth. I'm done. And there was his football career.
Right. That's it.
So again, it's like, but again, I'm not going to, but going back to your point in terms of those who want to buy in and those who don't, again, it goes back to accountability and you being able to put in the effort to get them to either buy in or get out, right? They got to make a decision. And that was, I fired and I've kicked out several folks out of my organizations, out of the Army and things like that, right? Just because, hey, look, there comes a time when you become, counterproductive to what the entire organization is trying to do, right? And if you don't want to buy in, you want to, say, hey, look, because at the end of the day, when it comes from a business perspective, you're part of an organization for X reason. A lot of people work for a lot of different reasons, right? Everyone's got to feed the kids. Everyone's got to pay the bills. Everyone's got to do this, right? And that's all it is for some people. There's no real drive to, be the best in anything. It's just, hey, I got to feed the kids, and know what I want to do? I want to go ride my dirt bike on weekends. I want to go do X, right? That's my focus. This is just helping me do whatever I do, so they don't have the same buy-in as you do. So you got to get those guys to perform at a level that's no longer counterproductive. But when they become counterproductive and you give them those opportunities to better themselves, you give them those opportunities to be part of the team and they don't want to, then you got to cut sling load, right? You got to say, hey, it's time for you to go.
Right.
Because no one, and that's it. Because, it's a lot of documentation in the civilian world, even in the military, right? Then you're going to get the counter complaints, say he's a toxic leader and he's this and that. I've had all those investigations, right?
I want to
go ahead.
I really feel like this idea that you have to be uncomfortable. I really want to hit this one more time. This idea that how much of your day, your 24-hour day, Raw, is being uncomfortable and pushing yourself and pushing against, strength against strength. And because I don't think people think that. I think people's goal is to be soft and comfortable and happy. Have enough money in the bank, pay all the bills, turn on the air conditioner and watch the TV and do whatever. And what you're telling me is to be an elite human being, an elite citizen, and somebody that's contributing to society, you need to be uncomfortable and you need to take risk and you need to be scared, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word. Have the butterflies in your stomach, whatever the case may be. How much of your day is searching out those challenges? Because I think people need to know what they're doing is probably not right.
Well, and again, right? I've got a different definition of success than others do, right? And again, that definition of success is my kids are fed, my bills are paid, I'm riding my dirt bike on Saturday.
Okay.
That's their success, and that's it, right?
Right.
I've got a different definition. You can't put everyone on a level plane and say, hey, this is success for everybody. Because it doesn't work that way. Because, folks have got different value systems, different beliefs, different desires, different inputs and outputs and all kinds, right? So what do you call it? So, but for me as an individual, I want to play on a higher level, right?
Right.
I'm what do you call it? And me, I had this great conversation with my son last night, right? He went to a combine last night, and he's throwing the ball. He's really grown. I was very impressed with him. And then afterwards, we're just kind of talking, in terms of where he was a year ago and where he is now. I mean, he's going to graduate with his 2-year degree in May, and I'm very proud of him, right? Because he kind of screwed up a little bit, and he paid for he had repeated sophomore year in college, and he paid for the whole thing out of pocket, right? Mm-hmm. It was a real growing experience for him. He's like, Dad, I'm not going to make you pay for it. I screwed up. Right. I'm not going to make you pay twice, which is huge, right?
That is huge.
But again, right? It depends on where you want to operate, right? It's like, I met a gentleman who used to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he was a running back, and we were talking over lunch. He's now doing federal contracting, but he's like, hey, look, when you're in the NFL, he's like, it's different, man. He's like, you know what? It's not just your physical abilities, right? It's your mental abilities. You got to study, man. You got to know who's in front of you. You got to know their strengths, your weaknesses. You got to know the team. You got to know everyone. Who's going to come behind this guy if he gets hurt? You got to know. And it's like, it's a different level, right? If you're going to execute it that way. Mm-hmm. Much like on the business side, right? Where I'm at here, I know, I don't know everybody, but I know the key players within the Defense Health Agency, those contractors, those companies. I know what those companies' strengths are. I know what their weaknesses are. I know who's leading their efforts for them. I know who's going where. I know why they're going where. I know why someone's having issues here. And I'm like, man, how'd that guy get there? But I know the battlefield, right? I assess. And then, I put in the work all day, every day, right? Everyone's like, man, hey, we're having a party Friday night. Got a business meeting, got to go. What do you mean you have business meetings Friday night? Hey, that's where I need to be.
Yeah, that's.
But again, it's a matter of where do you want to be in life, and how much are you willing to put in to get there. Like when my son and I were talking last night, it was like he had mentioned one of his friends told him, hey, I peaked in high school. High school was the greatest ever. And I'm like, man, you're only 20 years old, right? I'm like, but there's folks like that, right? Al Bundy, right?
Yeah.
Freaking, and we talked about
4 touchdowns.
Yeah, what do you call it? Uncle Rico, right? And Napoleon Dynamite. He could have made it to the big league, right? He throw a football over the mountain a little bit. But again, for me, in my life, like I told him, there is never a place where I look back and say, man, that was the greatest time of my life. Right? Oh, that was the greatest moment in my life. Like I told him, I'm never going to put up a monument for any time in my life. It's never going to be like, man, 2014, greatest year of my life. Oh my God, I wish I could go back there. I wish I could go. Hell no, there's no monuments. There's no landmarks. It's just kind of like, it's an experience. I take that in, but I'm always looking for something better in the future, right? I mean, it's like, I've got a lot of opportunities right now in my mind in terms of where I want to go and where I see myself in 10 years, right? Whether I want to be the CEO of my own company, whether I want to work an executive level, chief growth officer in one of these large corporations. I mean, these are all paths that I can go down to, but there's things I know I need to do today to better myself. So when I get to these places and these opportunities come up, I'm ready for them, right? And, I had General Coots, who's retired and now the CEO for Holy Cross. I forget he got the entire health system under him, but, again, one of the blessings I've always had is I had these great guys in front of me who give me great advice. He's like, hey, man, one of the best advice he gave me was, hey, always be ready. Always be ready. He says, because you never know when that opportunity is going to come. It's an opportunity of a lifetime, and you haven't done your work. That's happened to me once or twice, right? I get this opportunity, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but you need this certification.
Yeah.
Shit. I knew I had to do that. I did do it. Yeah, in preparation for this. Now this opportunity comes in front of me, and I'm like, I didn't do it.
Let me ask you it the other way. So you're grinding, and you enjoy the grind, and you enjoy the suck, embrace the suck. What happens when you do get the W? And I know we talked about act like you've been there before, but do you allow yourself to celebrate? in any way?
I celebrate every day.
That's the greatest answer. We're going to put that at the beginning, because I think that's the greatest answer to me of leadership. Because again, we had a sign over the door at the coach's office that said, "Check your ego at the door." And every day as we walked out, we tapped that thing, and it became kind of repetitious, but everybody knew what that meant, and it was along the lines of, every day's a great day. I mean, I either learned something or I succeeded at something, and there's such a great freedom to living like that. The motivation when I get up in the morning, I can't wait to get to work in the morning. And I got, I'm not doing anything earth shattering at this point, but I love the coaching aspect of things and stuff. One of the things that was a turning point, I learned from somebody that there needs to be a certain level of again, I'm sure the military has something that would concur with this, but we would say this is a yes sir, no sir program. Hey, when we're on the field, it's yes sir, I understand, I'm going to do my best. No sir, I don't understand, can you explain it to me again? And then when we go off the field, I'd say, when we get off the field, if you want to come to my office and say, "Fucking A, coach, I fucking hate this shit. I fucking hate you talking to me the way you do, or you fucking torture me." And they looked at me like, that's not real. As soon as that became real to those kids, then all of a sudden it was like they took, they come in, sit down, and they'd go, "Fuck, coach, this is fucking, how come you're always fucking telling me that shit?" And then we'd explain it and we'd talk about it. And once they knew that was true, that you would really listen to them, then yes sir, no sir on the field became way easier.
Yeah.
But the second thing, and it'll lead to my next question for you, is the second thing that happened is I'd walk in the locker room looking for Johnny because I'm pissed off because he did something stupid. And the kids would go, "Don't worry about it, coach. We got him. They got him out back. They're talking to him right now." Sweet. And I'd move on. But that kind of leadership where you were able to motivate guys to motivate each other seemed to be such a huge part of, again, if nothing else, the workload of the coach or the leader. Your workload started to diminish where you weren't micromanaging and all these things. Is that something that the leadership that you use?
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal, right? Is you don't want to micromanage. You micromanage is like, you want this to be a self-only machine that's just going to keep executing your presence or not, right? That's the ultimate goal. Military, right? Hey, you may be taken out. What happens? Everyone sits down and says, "Oh, we're done." Yeah. Mission's got to go, right? You got to keep going. Right. Now, your point of, hey, that's those closed door conversations, right? And it comes with the leader understanding that, hey, even though you're in charge of the mission, you kind of understand the direction, you're kind of defining that endpoint and that success. It doesn't necessarily mean you've got the only path there, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that the path that you're on is correct. And folks will walk into my office sometimes, or they'll close the door and say, "Hey, man, you're way off on this." So why say private so and so? I'm a major, you're a private, right? No, that doesn't. It's what do you call it? It's like, well, tell me what you think. And and you got kids. That's one thing that kind of frustrated me with the military points, was that people were stuck in their rank. Right. And they're wanting to interject their ideas and thoughts, and we're like, "Wait a second, hey, private, go over there and go, what have you." But once you start learning to, hey man, those guys, they're some smart kids, man. I mean, the kids today, man, have got just access to but you as a leader have got to be able to sit there and get that conversation and freaking hear into it and say, "Okay, look." It's like, even today I get people who call me and say, "Hey man, we need to talk. You're off point on this, you're off point on that." And then you got two options: get pissed off and say, "You know what? Get the hell out of here," or say, "Okay, you got a point." And when if they're off point, then you got to be able to kind of make the counterpoint. Say, "Hey, this is why I'm doing it," right? Got one of my favorite leadership stories, right? Is it was my platoon. They do this thing called the Expert Field Medical Badge, right? And the percentage of folks who get that, they'll send thousands of people, only 5% get it, right?
Wow.
The platoon leader before, it took like 10 people, and they came back with a goose egg. Nobody got it. So when I came and I took over the platoon, Colonel Hart told me, he's like, "Hey, I'm not sending you guys." It's like, "There's no way I'm sending you guys. You guys came back with a goose egg. they had to send us to Colorado to test. We're in Fort Irwin, which is outside of Barstow. He's like, it cost us a lot of money to send you guys, and you guys came back with nothing. I'm like, sir. So it took me about 2 months to convince him, sir, you need to send. I'm going to send you. I'm not sending 10, and somehow or another I was able to negotiate 7 of us, right?
All right.
So out of 7 of us, one guy got injured. What do you call it? The other guy was just not focused, right? And that's the kind of focus of the story. The guy just there, and I kept telling him, hey, he was trying to chase tail in this, while everyone else was trying to study. He just wasn't focused. And he boloed, right? But 5 of us, we got it. So we came back, 5 of 7, which was a great number. And so then the next time around, the colonel's like, yeah, man, you can, send it over, And this kid that boloed that didn't focus, right? All his sergeants kept coming to me, sir, you got to send this guy. Sir, you got to send this guy. I'm like, no, hell no, hell no. Right. Back in my mind, I was like, I'm going to send him. But he was just like, and he just had to demonstrate, that he was putting in the work to go. And he came to my house, I'm going to send you, man. I took you last time. I gave you a chance. We're going to get other people a chance. And he had the best scores. He was just killing it. He was working his ass off. Last minute, 2 days before, I said, send him. And we send him, right? So he goes and he gets the honor grad. He's a freaking top guy. So he comes back, right? And I'm sitting in the mess hall in a meeting, and he comes and he sits right across from me. He sits at this little 2-man table, and he comes and sits there. And I forget the kid's name. I was like, hey, how you doing? And he's good. He just smiles at me. He's eating. I'm just freaking eating. He's looking at me, smiling at me. And I looked at him and I said, hey, you want to tell me fuck you, don't you? He was like, what? I was like, you just want to tell me fuck you, right? He's like, yes, sir. I was like, yes. I got it. Said, you don't understand any of this. I said, I told him, I was going to say it the entire time. So you're a talented kid, you're a smart kid. I said, but you didn't get it, right? So all this time, I just freaking gave you the Heisman, didn't give you time, and look what you did. But it didn't take me to do anything. You had to look inside yourself. You had to find that you had to find that fire. You had to find that motivation, right? And he went over there and he killed it. It had nothing to do with me. I said, you had it the entire time. But you decided to have fun. Much like that lieutenant colonel told me. I said, hey, man, when you're ready to perform, you're a killer. You don't want to perform? Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. I haven't got time for you.
Well, that you giving him the opportunity, even though he fucked it up the first time. See, that's, to me, that's, it's almost like all the great movies about leaders being developed. They were all, there's a lot of fuck ups. There's a lot of dudes that were just, for whatever reason, they couldn't freaking deal with being told what to do. But when they finally got their shit together, they became those great leaders or those heroes that did something spectacular. And, I think we've all had a little bit of that in our lives where, I could have easily rolled the wrong way and, been freaking knucklehead asshole that, didn't make it and do something, and somebody came along that showed you the right path and kicked you in the ass enough or got real with you. And, those are to me, those are great leadership stories, and you giving him that opportunity is a great example.
I know that Chuck and I talk a lot about the kids that are really willing to freaking confront us as coaches. So here we are as the adult, and we have these kids that are coming up and just pushing against us, and maybe inappropriate, maybe not great, but I think we talk about it all the time, even on the pod. It's like, we love those kids. I love the kids that go too far, and they're just like, oh, I know they got the balls to freaking, when the light's shining the brightest and all that stuff. And it's a lot easier to coach those kids than to get the kids from the bottom that Chuck was asking about before. It's fucking get motivated, man. These guys are so passionate and so motivated. They're going to tell me to fuck off on the field. I mean, I'm like down. It's secretly, I like those kids, I don't.
Yeah, well, but that's it, right? You got to, it's like, and that's the balance of it all, right? It's right. Like you want to tell kids or folks, shut up and color, just do what I say.
Right. And
you're not really developing them, right? You want to teach them that courage and intestinal fortitude to come up and say, you know what? I'm going to speak up for myself, right? Because you just don't want a guy who's just going to follow orders, right? You got to challenge the system, right? You got to challenge yourself. I mean, that's the whole bit, I think, in terms of growth when you start pushing, right? And it's the ability to
I think that's what Master Sergeant saw in you, bro. that very first guy that you ran into, the 5'4" guy. I think that's what he
Yeah,
saw.
yeah.
I think he saw that you weren't very afraid, and you're willing to follow the rules to an extent, but you needed to have a direction and you needed to have a meaningful situation before you can get on board.
Yeah, I think
I
he
mean, I knew
saw.
you back
I
then,
think
so
he
I could
saw me a little bit.
attest.
Like, I think he was like, "Yeah, I need to help this guy. He's all jacked up."
That's what I was gonna say. I kind of knew you. You weren't saying yes sir, no sir to anybody for a long, long time, and I just don't think you found something that you can care about. At that time.
But I mean, it's like, again, it all becomes that that constructive conversation, that positive being able to communicate, right, and say something's not right here, right, and do it effectively, right? Because there's one way to go in and say, hey, you know what, the hell with you, this is BS, is this, and there's another conversation, say, hey, look, this is what you're doing. Here's my recommendation. This is what I think our outcome's going to be, versus being confrontational, right?
Right.
And what do you call it? I got no issues with folks, but you got to learn. It takes time, right, as you grow, and how to have those conversations. Well, and it goes down to those personal relationships, right?
Right.
And it's like, how do you have those conversations with, and I would just tell you, I got 3 sons, right? And, me and my buddy were just talking about this. My conversations now with my kids are completely different than what they were, even 2 years ago, right?
Right.
My oldest son, he's killing it, right? And hey, that kid's an intelligent kid. He's one of 13 kids out of 24,000 applicants who were selected to go write for, I think it's called the Edit or whatever the heck it was. But it was this, we were trying to target college kids to write for the New York Times.
Right on.
He was one of 13 kids out of 23,000 applicants, I think it was. And he was like, boom, he got in, right? And he was a film major, right? And I was always, son, hit business, do business first, and then you can do your film on the side. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it this way. And I kind of, I finally accepted him, like, okay. But then he just starts killing it, right? And now he's working for the Root as a writer there, and he puts out, articles daily, right? And he's got a national, audience. And
I think we got to get him on the pod, not you.
Yeah, let me tell you, that kid, I tell you. So I was with him probably about 6 months ago, right? And me and him are talking. We're having these long, philosophical conversations. And, I'm leaving on in the morning. And he hands me 3 books. He's like, Dad, you need to read. I was like, all right, and like, our relationship is just, we've got a great relationship in terms of what we talk about, and his responsibility as a national writer and what he's writing about and his impact, and because the last administration was very challenging for him, right, in terms of he had to express ideas, and it was, but he got there. I thought he presented some good stuff, and then my 20-year-old, he's got this desire, he's a quarterback, and he went his freshman year, played at Methodist University, and then he, got a little bit in trouble, and then had to get him readjusted, and like I said, he adjusted well, and we had a conversation last night, and he's doing, his throws, everything is just completely different, right? Because like we talked, like early on, he was more concerned about what people thought, or how he looked and how he played. He was more focused on him, where now he's focused on the execution of what he's doing, right? Could care less about and he's leading out there, right? He's in this camp, and he's got all these folks, and he's directing traffic, and just a different, he's going to be 21 in August, but just solid, right? And we had these conversations in terms of, and he wants to learn. And then my youngest one, he's a pre-med kid down at Florida Tech, solid kid, and, always on growth, always on future, always focused. And it's just great to see all 3 of my boys, right? And, it's I did not have the problems with my boys that my parents had with me. And we'll leave that one at that. But what do you call it?
Sometimes that's what it takes. It takes that adjustment. The things we learned hard way. Hoping that our kids can not have to learn the hard way, and hope that it doesn't make them soft and all that kind of stuff. But that's great. That's you must be very proud, and that's. I have another quick question for you in terms of, because I think that all these things that we've talked about, leadership and the things that are really matter for guys that are in charge, and the suggestions and the comments. There's a lot of guys that are good at leadership whenever things are going mediocre and fairly well. What do you think the characteristics are, and what are some of the experiences you've had of leaders under fire that, when the shit hits the fan, here's the characteristics that are the guys that I would follow into hell, or here's the guys that just fell flat on their face under fire. What's your experience with that?
I mean, a lot of different things. But, when you're under pressure, you're under fire, right? I mean, again, from my military experience, right, we train for the firefight, right? We train for the worst case scenario, right? And we train and we train and we train and we train. So then when you do get into that environment and things go wrong, right, nobody's hitting the panic button, right? Everyone's okay, you gotta be calm, cool across the board. And, you've got to be able to, when I was running, I was told, hey, look, when you're running hills, you gotta run the hills the same way you run flatland, right? It's like you just gotta run the same pace. Don't change because it's a hill. Don't change. Just keep going. And that's the same thing in leadership. When things are great, it's an easy run, right? You're running downhill. Hey, everything's good. Hey, I'm good, right? When you can run downhill the same way you can run uphill, that's when you kind of got it, right? And from a leadership perspective, hey, when things are good, it's easy to lead, right? But well, not necessarily, right? But bottom line is you've got to be consistent across the board, right? And it takes a while to get that. The biggest piece is controlling your emotions, right? It took me a long time to figure out that piece.
Right.
How to get control of your emotions, right? How not to frickin',
Tell us about that, because I remember you as a very emotional human being, and now you're the coolest dude I know. How did that happen for you?
I think it started yesterday. But
Just achieved it yesterday.
No, but
What was your journey with that, Raul? I mean, obviously, did you get your butt kicked by mouthing off and then you're tired of getting punished, or did you see the light somehow, or did you prepare yourself to where there was no loss of emotion? What is that? I really want somebody to hear this thing and go, oh, yeah, that's my problem. I want to do that. This is the path. What can you give them? What can you tell people about getting control of your emotions? Is it meditation? Is it working yourself like a dog? Is it preparation? What is it?
again, it's all, I've always you asked me about, in previous conversation about, who are those leadership icons? Who do I look up to? I've never been a guy who looked up to someone on TV, an athlete, someone who's, I just never really, again, I was very blessed to be in front of folks that were doing well. And I learned early, I said, you know what, if I want to be like that guy right there, I want to get to his position, but I'm going to be better than that guy.
Right.
I remember there was this colonel in Panama who was a battalion commander, and I'll name nameless, but I just was like, man, this guy, how is he a lieutenant colonel and I was a staff sergeant, right? Like, man, I can do better than this guy, right? It's like, I can be in that position. But for me, I had to learn. I was like, okay, hey, look, what does this guy have, right? And there was guys, man, like, good story. We're in Iraq, and God, I think it was General Jones. He was a one-star at the time. And we're having a freaking meeting, right? And we're on the second floor of this warehouse. I'm converting to division headquarters, and we're sitting there, and he's talking to us. And boom, big explosion goes off. The entire building freaking shakes. And everyone's looking around the table, and we're all freaking like, oh, do we get on the table? What do we do, right? And without a meet, he did not jump, he not done. He just kept talking as if anything. And he just kept going and going and going. And everyone around the table still kind of looking at each other like, shit. And he just kept talking about the points, and he started asking questions. And you're in the back of your mind like, man, we got to get the hell out of this building. Next round's coming in. We're all going to get freaking... Just kept going. And I watched that guy. I said, man, that is the freaking coolest guy I've ever met in my life.
Yeah,
a freaking explosion. I mean, just like building shaker. You're freaking... Just no response, and just like, hey, let's go, right? So I've been exposed to people like that, right? Another gentleman, Mr. Gidwani, man. Mr. Gidwani was really the guy who helped me transition from the federal, from the Army into the civilian world. Mr. Gidwani was a senior executive service a guy, general equivalent, right? Still a great friend to me now and still my mentor. I meet with them for lunch at least once a quarter, and but that guy, I remember we're in Louisville. They wanted to build a brand new clinic. They wanted to build a brand new hospital in Fort Knox, and we're like, it's just, we don't have the patience, right, to spend $500 million on something that's not going to be utilized, right?
Right.
We had to go around and see all these major facilities, the University of Louisville, the VA clinic out there. I forget the health systems that were out there, but we had to meet with all these CEOs, and everyone's just chiming in, and he's just sitting at the end of the table, and he's talking. Everyone's kind of getting boisterous and stuff, and then he's, excuse me, and then he just starts talking, calm as can be, and he drove the whole conversation at that point. It was one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen. You've got, and these are, again, all these guys are doctoral stuff, PhDs, doctors, all this stuff, and here he is, and he just controlled this conversation. I looked at him, I was like, man. And we're just talking about healthcare and servicing the service members there. It wasn't, and he just intellectually was able to drive that conversation. He made key points, counterpoints, but just very polite. Appreciate your point. Da da da. Here's counter. And by that conversation, man, everyone was like, I've been exposed to folks like that, right? And I realized if I'm going to operate at their level, right? If I'm going to be, the next them. There's some, I've got to start mirroring these guys. And these guys are not, they're not yelling at people. They're not screaming at people. They're direct when they need to be direct. But it's all, and that's kind of like I said, hey, and that started when I started working that piece, because, one of the things is, in my career, specifically when I was in Germany, right? When I went to Germany, I was supposed to be the XO for the doc, which is a made-up position, right? And I had one guy that worked for me. By the time I left, I had one guy work for me, right? By the time I left there, I had 120 people that worked for me. They kept every department that wasn't functioning, they gave it to me, and they kept giving it to me, and they kept giving it. Next thing I know, I got this whole, almost the entire admin staff for this hospital, right? And then that's when they told me, hey, we need you to go run this clinic now. And it was just like, it was being able to dig into those folks and figure out, hey, look, how do we make your life comfortable so we can freaking start executing this mission, right? I mean, how do we, Heidelberg was a great place. I had some great freaking folks who worked for me. One of the things I did is every Friday, right? I'd take all the leadership from all these sub-departments with me, and we'd go to the golf course. And we'd have our lunch meeting. It started at 2 o'clock every Friday. And we'd all sit down in the conference room in the golf clubhouse. And the first thing I'd say is, hey, first rule of this meeting is we're not going to talk about business. And we sit there, we just drink and talk, and then then a few of us go shoot 9 holes, come back. By that time, all the families would be there. And we just had this great environment where we really trust each other. And we closed down that golf club every freaking Friday. And, they'd have to throw it out, say, hey, man, it's 12 o'clock, you guys got to go. Yeah, but one more round, right? And we just go. And, again, it's each one of those folks, we had some significant accomplishments. General Gallagher wanted a European call center, and he wanted it in 90 days. We built the call center in 90 days, and, we had some limitations, but we're serving 6 clinics within Europe, right? They wanted, they're switching over some support that really fell apart, bad contracting, and it had to do with managed care and the folks that were sending out to industry and getting the referrals approved. And it was a nightmare. We put in a solution. We got selected to come back here to DC to brief it to total command, because what we did was just we had made, we had adjusted fire. I mean, we did some great things, and the reason we did that is because there was trust amongst us. Nobody was in it for me. It was like, hey, and what we realized is the better we are, the more time we can go to the clubhouse.
Right.
Enjoy ourselves, right?
You better
That's
get
why-
your shit done by Thursday so we can go by 2:00 on Friday.
And that's the thing about celebrating all the time, right? And not necessarily popping champagne, just appreciating where you're at every day, right? Appreciating, hey, you know.
Yeah, the
I
human
can be-
element, the human element to the people that you're in charge of is recognizing that and giving them some sort of acknowledgement of that. It seems to be such a no-brainer, but it seems to be hard for some people to do, you know, and creating loyalty, you know, by doing things like that is, you know, that stuff lasts forever. And we're fortunate to be, I think all of us in some form or fashion, you know, with families or with our kids that we've coached, you know, you create these extended families that there's this loyalty that people look at and go, that's not normal. You know, how'd you guys do that? And it was a process of success and failures, but it was an ongoing process where we built on the leadership that came before us.
Right.
And we learned from them, and then we built our own form of that, and then we taught somebody else, and then they built some of that, and it just, you know, that like-minded thinking really is the basis of loyalty, I think.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to that emotional intelligence, right? And, you know, and you know, one of the things as a leader, man, you got to know how to love, right? You got to know how to laugh. Humor is very important, man, when it comes to leadership, right? It's like you've got to, you know, again, going back to that point is people want to do business with who they want to do business, right? If you can make someone smile, right? You can make someone feel like, man, they're loved, you know, like, you know, I tell folks all the time, hey, man, love you, man. They kind of look at me like, man, what the fuck? You know, but it's not just like, you know, I say it because I mean it, right?
Right.
When folks get into trouble or there's some issue going, it's like, you know, I'm there for you. You know, it's like I'm not there to, you know, it's like there's an appreciation and a respect. Going back to the respect and dignity. I'm gonna freaking, you know, and if I'm with you and you got an issue, I'm gonna figure it out. You know. And one last story, I was freaking at telling my son this last night. I was at, you know, this doctor's appointment, right, in Fort Myers here in DC one day. And the doctor starts asking me all these questions, right? But real, like, you know, specific questions. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, like, man, I'm like, how do you know this? I says, is that on my medical record, right? I'm just like, you know. And she tells me, she says, hey,
Your
you don't
CIA
remember me.
file.
Yeah, right? And she's like, you don't remember me, do you? I was like, no, I'm sorry, I don't. She says, hey, you know, a few years ago, you saved my career. She's like, me and my husband were going through this thing, and, you know, we had the MPs and the whole bit, this and that. And says, and you brought us in, and, you know, my marriage, you kind of saved our marriage because, you know, at that point she was ready to send him home and just kind of end it. And it was just like, you know, and she's like, you know, and here I am, you know, I'm still serving and a doc here and this and that. And I was like, you know, so I was like, does that mean I'm not getting the anal probe today? She's like, yeah, no anal probe. So that's good. But what do you call it? But bottom line, it was like, you know, that's that emotional piece, right? Because again, in the military, right, you got to deal with folks. You're responsible for them, their families, their kids selling drugs. Why is your soldier's kid selling drugs? Shit, I don't know, you know, you better figure it out. You're creating that environment that telling their kids that, you know, like, wait a sec, but, you know, but that's it. But, you know, you get in the military, like, there's always this overreaction, right? I mean, because everyone is going to have conflict, internal conflict at some point with their spouse or whatever, you know? But, you know, you got to be able to just kind of like, take a deep breath. And the first time we've seen this, you guys, you know, go home, think about it, come back, let me know what you guys want to do. But I'm not going to send the soldier home just to, you know, the spouse home because, you know, this is assignment, right? But it's like, hey, we're a public company. We're in the business of making money, right? We're a multi-billion-dollar company. We're freaking moving that direction.
Yes.
If you're not contributing to that, hey, have a good day. We don't got time for it, right?
Right.
In the government, on the other hand, there's so much regulation and, you know, all these programs. And I get it, you know, it's relevant, right? There's been some things in the past that need to be corrected, right? And I don't think we're where we need to be, right? There's still some things that we need to do to kind of get better, right? And I think there's some divisions and some motives and, you know, different things are just not, you know, just not where we need to be. But bottom line is, but as an organization, right, if you want to move and you want to get there, right, and you got these disruptive entities, they've got to be addressed. And his response again is not to get into a, hey, it's a matter of confront the source, right? And then because it's all going to play itself out, right? At the end, right? Because you don't need an immediate response, right? It's like everything else, right? Today it's an issue. What do you call it? Next week you're on to the next issue, right?
Right.
So you play this, right? You understand? So okay, here's an issue for the day. Got everyone all riled up. But in 30 days from now, no one's going to give a shit about that email anymore, right? Now you got to play it as such. So okay, look. Okay, appreciate everyone kind of doing that, but you don't even interject in that discussion. That's internal. You deal with it heads on, and then after you deal with it heads on, it's going to go one way or the other, right? But the bottom line, as a leader, you got to take your stance, with that individual, because someone swings at you, right? You're going to have to swing back, but you don't have to do it in a crowd. We're not in high school anymore, and everyone wakes up to school and goes, I'm going to meet you at the park at 3:00, and everyone goes. I don't need to do that, right? Hey, this is a deal. You got an issue with me? Let's have a conversation. And that's why
that's the beauty of leadership, because I can't, there's nobody that I can say that was a leader in my life, a real leader, or somebody that impressed me, or I modeled my game after, that I didn't think that dude's a badass. I'm that kind of is where it starts at, to me. I mean, the compassion and stuff is only as good as how badass you are. Like if I'm compassionate all the time, I might not be seen as a great leader. Sometimes you need to freaking stand up and freaking punch somebody in the face. I mean, obviously not necessarily literally, but
physically, but yeah.
But I mean, that's part of being a leader. Is people will follow you because they see your strength. And sometimes that hurts people's feelings, and sometimes that ruffles some feathers, but I think that's part of the role in leadership is stands for strength and power, and if you can do that with somewhat of a soft hand at times, or show that love. One of the things, when I first took the job at Pioneer 9 years ago, I came into a bunch of guys I didn't know who had a general idea that there was a lot of problems with them fighting and all that kind of stuff going on. And I came in and I stood up in front of this group that didn't know me from Adam, and I said, you have one job. That's to love each other. And I said, and I have one job, and that's to love you. And I swear to God, the looks on their faces were like, who the fuck are you? And where did you put our football coach? Because this is not this guy is coming in that's supposed to be this great fucking, leader guy and all this shit. They did not think that was anything close to what they wanted to hear. When they found out that I loved you enough to kick your ass and follow your grades and get in your business and be relentless, then that's where the toughness and the leadership and the badassery or whatever comes. But I think there's such a duality to leadership that people forget. Yeah, some people are going to get their fucking feelings hurt. Sorry,
Yeah, but that's it, right? And again, one of the points I took out what you just said is, in time there's an understanding, right? And that's why you can't, as a leader, you can't get overly emotionally involved in the problem of the day, right? Because you got to understand, whatever your position is, you're going to be, it's going to come to either you're right or you're wrong, right? And you just got to walk through and help folks kind of understand that, right? Because they don't have all the information you have that made that decision, that forced you to make that decision, right?
Right.
Because, as leaders, everyone has a boss, right?
Right.
And everyone, there's someone, I don't care where you're at, you're accounting to somebody, and decisions need to be made that are going to make you uncomfortable, right? But it's not necessarily your decision. Like you said, this young man had to make a decision, this lady had to make a decision, but wasn't, and the folks below him see him as a target or her as a target, but they don't have all the information.
Correct.
And then you get the conversation through and say, hey, look, let me explain to you, again, this is why, you're not going to do this stuff again, right? You're showing them, hey, you're correcting the behavior, but then now you're giving them the respect to say, okay, I understand why you're pissed, but this is how we got here.
Right.
Give me a suggestion, or hey, we have no recourse at this point. Again, boss said this is what he wants. Shut up and color, and let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken me a long time to kind of get to that point, right? And even when I was with senior positions, and there's some decisions made, You know, like Larry Cano, the guy who ran. There's one time there's a decision made, and I was so fucking pissed off. I was pissed. I said, "This is bullshit,"
Right.
and I was all worked up. And he just fucking sat there like, "Hey, Ron, relax. Go back to your office." No, sir, this is like, no. Hey, just leave it alone. And it took me like a week to get over this thing. I was just so pissed off, right?
That's how your brother treats me. That's how Rick treats me. He
You
said,
know?
Tommy, just call me tomorrow.
And then, but then after a while, here we are, right? I don't even remember what the problem was. Right? But at the time, I was just like, and that's the thing, right? That it's.
One of the things we talk about, I teach psychology, and one of the things we talk about in child development is when you cannot interact with your child when you're angry at them. You have, if you want to make meaningful changes, you have to be chill, and you know it's wrong, but you're not going to be able to make the moves unless your head is level. And do you do anything specifically on a regular basis to keep your head level?
Drink.
Okay, for you it's the
No, what do you call it? You know what? I appreciate where I'm at. I'm going to tell you, I got one of the best jobs in the world. I mean, last 3 weeks ago, I think on the 1st of April, they flew me out to Texas to throw a happy hour, to go drink with people. Next day, I'm on the golf course watching these PGA guys play in this little box, and I'm drinking with a customer and kind of sitting there. And I've got nobody that works for me right now. So, look, one of the things, you asked me, like, I'm happy with where I'm at in life, right? I'm okay where I'm at. And, and I understand where I never forget, my path, right? And I never forget I'm moving forward, right? And where my goals are, where I'm still moving, right? But what do you call it? I live, and kind of funny story. What do you call it? We were just talking about this the other day. But when I graduated from college, right? We're at the ceremony. The valedictorian goes up and he starts talking, right? And I'm there with all my RTC buddies. We're all graduating wrong, And the guy says, "Hey, you know what? You guys always got to remember this. He says, no matter what, he says, you got to study 6 days and you got to party 1. And me and all my buddies looked at each other and said, "Oh shit, we got it wrong. We partied 6 days. We woody cut, and we studied." Well, my buddy the other day tells me, he says, "Hey, he says you got to be in this relaxed environment, and you can have excitement one night, but the other nights, and I thought about that college. I said, man, I've been doing it wrong. I get excitement 6 days a week. I relax on 1 day of the week, right? It's like,
can you work hard for 23 and party for 1?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know what? Again, what I do to relax, is just kind of, I enjoy what I do. I mean, I really enjoy what I do. I relax when I'm working, right? I mean, it's high stress, and there's the demands are there, and there's things that are put upon me that but I'm okay with it. I'm in an environment, I'm comfortable with the stress, right? So it's not necessarily anything that I've got to do in terms of, I don't meditate. I just started working out again, and I'm beginning to enjoy that, right? Because I got to kind of start taking care of myself, because I'm getting older, right? It's just what you got to do, right? But I enjoy the healthy relationship I have with my boys. I've got my own personal relationships that I enjoy. I've got some great friends who are just fantastic, right? I got outstanding work colleagues. And the people I work with are they're just superstars, right? And so I'm in this environment daily, and I'm like, man, again, it's like that once in a lifetime song, right? By the Talking Heads, like, hey, how did I get here, right? Here I am.
How did I get here?
Graduated from high school with a 2.01 after going to 5 different high schools, and my parents never moved once, right? Nobody wanted me in their schools. Nobody wanted, and it was just like, and now here I am. I'm operating day to day with all these high speed, just well-focused, well-oiled, intelligent individuals. And I'm like, man. And then when I speak, they respect my opinion. What do you call it? When they speak, and we work together and get things done, it's like, man. Right. So, You
Let me
know,
ask you
again,
this, I have a philosophy question for you, Raul. So during the pandemic, one of the things that was happening here in California, I don't know if it was happening where you were, but we had this idea that the kids were going to be the ones that, since they weren't going to school and we were doing the online learning, that it was going to be very disruptive to them. They were going to be really messed up from it. And we wanted to try. And what I kept hearing, and I talked to Chuck about this time and time again, they wanted things to be normal as possible. In my warped, bent up brain, and I'm learning a lot from you today. I'm getting a lot of my philosophies attacked, which is great. Um, I thought that maybe we shouldn't try to make things normal for the kids. We're in a pandemic. It's a bad deal. Whether you like it or not, we need to react in a wartime way or in a pandemic way, not in a normal way. That Disneyland is closed. We don't get to go there now. We have to find another way to survive, and we have to find another way to make peace, and we have to find another way to celebrate. And I really was so angry at that as a citizen. I was like, you know what? Bullshit. When my grandfather was born, it was a Great Depression. And then he fought in World War II against the great fascists of the world and succeeded. That's what made him the great generation, was all his hardships and all his adaptability and all the journey that he and the things that he experienced. It wasn't the fact that he, went to college, and it wasn't the fact that he ate 3 gourmet meals a day. And it wasn't, none of that shit happened. He was a hard, tough man. And do you feel like we should be trying to make things normal, or do you think that's a bad move coming from the military side, where nothing is normal, where war is imminent and you always have crazy shit going on?
Yeah, so just kind of like this from the military perspective is a different aspect, right? Because the things we train for and the things we see, you're not, it's
right.
just different world.
I guess that's right? Unfair for me to say that, yeah.
But I would just tell you this is that, you've got to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be uncomfortable, and you got to learn to live and adjust fire, right, when you're uncomfortable. You got to learn, because, listen, you can't create these kumbaya environments, right? It's just, I talked to my son, and I said, you're going to get punched in the face. I don't care, that you can't stop it.
Right.
Things are going to happen that you cannot control, and it's just, but what do you do when you get there, right?
Right.
And it's always to call you to make sure, hey, you know what? Yeah, this is tough. Let me make sure you're okay. Let me put some bubble wrap around you, right?
Right.
That's not how it works, right? Because you want them to be, for me, again, going back to some of my initial points, is you're not going to grow unless you're uncomfortable, right? You're not going to grow unless you take those risks. And when you get a tough situation, you got to learn to deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. Psychologically, physically.
I thought this was a golden opportunity to create the next great generation. If these kids can survive the pandemic and be semi-normal, and they could succeed in life, and they could have a wife and a kid 20 years from now, they're going to be badasses, because they didn't have a graduation, they didn't have a football season, they didn't have any of this bullshit.
So I get on these parent websites for the colleges my kids go to, and all these folks are complaining, oh, my kid's worked so hard, he needs a graduation, I'm writing to the president, I need all the parents to write this. It's like, hey, calm the fuck down, relax, right? What is graduation is, it's like,
act like you've been there before. You graduated from high school.
Act like you've been there before. It's because if that's, again, I will not build monuments for any single event or success I have. I'm not going to be mad, like, I got all these plaques and all this different stuff from the military. You know where it's all? It's all in boxes. Right? I got all my uniforms on. You know what? It's away. Should I pass one day, my uniform's ready, they could just take it out of the closet, put it on me, and save them some money so they don't have to buy me a suit. Right. Boom, we're done. Again, you accomplish something, okay. The first question is what's next? Mm-hmm. What's next? What are we gonna do, right? And that's
now. Do you celebrate? Do you celebrate before you ask that question, or do you celebrate after you got the next step ready, lock and loaded?
Like for me, I've never really celebrated. Like don't get me wrong. If there's a chance to party, I'm gonna party.
Right. That's what I mean.
Don't get me wrong, but it's never really been because, like, um, promotion party. Yeah, I can throw a promotion. Okay, I got promoted. Okay, whatever, right? There's an importance in terms of and I'm talking just self, right? For me personally, I don't celebrate my successes. It just because again, for me, I celebrate every day, right?
Right.
And it's kind of like, and I've got yeah. Bottom line, I celebrate every day.
No, I appreciate that, Rod. I don't mean to put you in a corner.
But the personal satisfaction of job well done for some of us is the deal.
That's it.
Yeah. I agree completely with what you're saying, and I love, because we were going to end with me asking you a question about happiness and those, and you answered it, I think, already perfectly. And
because,
I think that happiness comes from a job well done and having some success and being able to have your family have some success, and those things are that's neat to hear.
Well, the byproducts of
every time when I look, what do you call it? Happiness is within, right? It takes some time, right? And it takes some growing, some maturing to become comfortable with yourself, right?
Right.
You got, folks who are looking for a relationship and they believe is they're going to find someone who's going to make them happy, right? You got folks who are looking for this perfect opportunity that's going to make them happy, right?
the Ferrari's not going to make me happy.
Yeah, exactly. Until you're comfortable with yourself and you're okay, and every day you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I'm where I need to be. And I mean, that's where happiness comes from, man. The ability to love yourself and say, okay, in your best and your worst, right? And just because you wake up the next morning, you're like, damn, what the hell did I do last night? I've had those, I think, I had those recently. Like, what did I do last night, man? What the hell did I say? I should never, But then it's like, okay, got it. Well, what are we going to do now?
Right.
Don't dwell on it. Okay.
One of the greatest words on the planet to me, and I use it a lot at this stage of my life, is just gratitude. And I feel that gratitude in so many ways, in so many forms and fashion. I mean, I have friends that go, God, you're getting soft, and and all that kind of stuff. I'm not. I've evolved to the place where I can appreciate that the gratitude that I have for things way outweighs the struggles that I have in my life. And to me, that's good enough. I'm not my expectations aren't through the roof, and I think that, you've kind of showed that in just the progression of the conversation we've had today. Right. And I applaud you, and definitely.
I would really like to add that I was looking for a 5-point plan. I was looking for a 5-point plan that I could write in a book and make my life better by being a leader and having fulfillment and all that stuff. But it sounds like it's a daily grind, and I love that I don't have to, dominate everybody every single day, but I got to be good with myself. And I just I'm digging it, because like I want to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't, like I love the newspaper. I want my name in the paper, and I really appreciate your perspective. And Chuck laughs because we talked about it before, and again, I love what you said about not having milestones, because I could look back at my high school days and say, shit, I did fucking pretty good back then. You know what I mean? And get stuck there a little bit, right? And so this has been, I don't know if anybody's gonna listen, Raul, but this has fucking been great for me. I feel fucking better, man. I kind of fixed my compass a little bit, and hopefully we can spend some more time together, just fun, having a few beers or whatever, because this has been great for me, man. I appreciate it. And I think there's other people that are going to appreciate it as well. And I think there's going to be some people that call you, man. Who is this guy? Where is this guy at? How could he be Rick's brother? How could he be Joey's brother? We didn't know nothing about this guy.
That's right. Well, Rick and Joey have been like, yeah, we don't know that guy.
Yeah, no.
Well, what's fun is, and we don't need to talk about it now, and we don't. But I am well versed in who Mike Fitch is.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
And I have a long history, not a long history. I have a good short history with Gene Zeller, which is, he's one of the goofiest, funniest dudes on the planet to me. And so we can chop that up sometime too down the road. And I think that would be a fun conversation to have off camera. But But yeah, I know there's paths that we all take to get to where we're ultimately supposed to be, and I
Right.
definitely think you took us down the path of your progress in life, and
Right.
again, we're real proud to have you on the show. We do finish up with some quick flow questions that Tommy's going to take over and ask you, and when we get through that, then we'll finish up. And
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's
You-
funny
Are you
when,
up for it? Just some good stuff here.
Yeah, because I saw when Rick did it, right? And I went along with the question. I'd answer the question. I was opposite with him on everything except for the brunettes and whiskey.
All right, well, let's try it. Let's put it on record. Well, real quick, just I do want to talk about some general things. Again, I'm a psychology teacher, so we have these general questions, and we like to compile those. So, like next week, we're gonna have the compilation on the Bezos question. But let me ask you a few things. What is your desert island top 5 records? I don't know if you're a music guy or not, but if you were on the desert island, what are the top 5 things you'd bring with you?
Man, you know what? I love music, man. Music's really
Okay,
good
cool,
instrument,
cool.
Right? Yeah, but top 5, you gotta go with Bob Marley.
Sure.
Legend, right? That's a good one. Shoot, you gotta go Prince's Purple Rain.
There you
Great
go.
You gotta do a little bit of Bad Religion, but a
Oh,
mixture
boy.
in between.
Los Angeles is burning.
Yeah, Foo Fighters are always good.
Nice.
And you always need some Donna Summer,
Oh, nice. Little something.
that's fantastic. That definitely is on the highlight reel.
That is some eclectic shit right there. All right. I really like this question, and I know this might be hard for you because you have so many people that's been in front of your face. What is one person who made an impact on your life that doesn't know it? You seem like a guy that might tell people how you feel. Is there anybody that's been in your life that you haven't, that doesn't know what an impact they've made?
That's a good question. I don't know if I got an answer for that one.
It's Tom
Well-
Gordon, Gordon.
Hey, knows the one person I really did, I recently, there's a gentleman by the name of General McCaffrey. General McCaffrey was our division commander during Desert Storm. And, I don't know if I got the story right, but during Vietnam, right, he was kind of blown up a little bit. And in the medical field, you got your triage of care, right? Who's a priority? Who needs to be taken up, right? You got this expectant area, right? And expectant is, hey, you're just, you're going to die.
Yeah.
We're just going to put you in this pile of folks, and God bless you. We got other folks that we think we can save. Well, during Vietnam, he was put in the expectant pile, and he woke up and said, hey, I'm not ready to go. You got to take care of me, right? Boom. But he ends up being the division commander, and we had a young man in our battalion who got hit pretty bad, right? And the environment that we're in at the time, we had incoming coming in, we had small arm fire, all kinds of things going on. And Jim McCaffrey, we're the point to the spear for the 24th Infantry Division. He came all the way up to our TOC, right up front with us. And Orm was hit, and the helicopters, the medevac pilots didn't want to come in. And, it was just too hot of an area. They thought if they came in, the helicopter would be shot. And McCaffrey got on the line and said, hey, you guys get a medevac in here now, or everyone back there is going to be a private here in about 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Boom, medevac came in, got him out, and boom. But that guy, you listen to McCaffrey, he's, West Point grad. It's always on MSNBC and a few other channels kind of giving us. But, guy's a smart guy. I served with him again in Panama. He was the the Southcom commander, 4-star general at the time. And I just look at him in terms of courage. He's just freaking just this, he's just a solid guy all the way around, man. Mm-hmm. I looked at him and I just got multiple crazy stories I could tell about how somehow or another he came to,
we always talk about, us guys always talk about who could you walk into the alley with, and it's always like our friends. But here you are talking about going into alley. You're talking about a 4-star general, man. That's awesome. I want that guy.
That's been my blessing, right? I mean, I've really been able to be put in front of great people. My battalion commander ended up being a 4-star General Craddock, right? And he was our battalion commander during Desert Storm. And I remember, man, him. Like, we were all, we're 19-year-old kids, and we're about to go forward into into Iraq, and we're days away. The air war is already going on. Planes are flying over us every day, and this like natural amphitheater in the middle of the desert. It gets the entire battalion in there, right? We all kind of sit down. We're all young kids, and we've been sitting out in the middle of the freaking desert for like 6+ months. Freaking just living like shit. We knew the only way to go home was forward, right? And we're like, man, so we're kind of giddy, kind of happy. Hey, man, we're going to go to war, we're going to war. But simultaneously, we all kind of realized. And, he brought everyone together, and we were all sitting in this amphitheater. And he says, okay, everyone look to your left. And everyone kind of looked to your left. He said, now everyone look to your right. And everyone looked to your right. He says, hey, some of you guys aren't coming back home. And they were just like, oh, shit just got real, right?
Yeah.
And then it was just a matter of talking about execution, the mission and things like that. But he said it. He was truthful with us, and we just all kind of like, okay, we're not fucking around at this point. It's time. Things got real. And I mean, that's leadership, right?
Yeah.
He freaking put it right there in front of your face and said, hey. But that's, again, I've been blessed again to be in front of these guys, end up being just these great folks, and just watching them and kind of saying, man, I want to be like this guy.
I think you need to send him an email.
Yeah. So it's funny, right? So McCaffrey and I synced up on LinkedIn, and I wrote him this thing. I was like, man, I feel like this freaking teenage girl seeing the Beatles for the first time.
Yeah.
He looked at me like, he wrote me like, what? I said, don't worry about it, sir. I'm excited that we connected. He had a conversation with me for like 15 minutes. We're going back and forth on LinkedIn. I thought, man, cool. This was about 2 years ago, but I mean, it was just to me, it was great, right?
That's awesome.
He got his ear, and he sat there and chatted with me, and I was like, yeah, that was good stuff.
I mean, we talked about it at length, and again, I want to apologize for the heaviness of the, and pushing and pushing and pushing for these points. But what is the magic? If you could sum it up, what's the magic bullet for happiness, man?
And again, it's just loving yourself, right?
All right.
Inner peace. You got to be able to, because there's nothing out there that's going to make you. There's not going to be drugs. It's not going to be alcohol. It's not going to be women. It's not going to be a brand new car. It's not going to be a mansion. It's not going to be money in your bank account. It's not going to be. There's nothing out there that's going to make you happy.
Right on.
It's right there inside. And once you're there, then everything just kind of adds, to life, I guess.
All right. So listen, if you had Bezos money, if you had Jeff Bezos money, what would you spend it on to make your country or community stronger?
Well, I think the education system, right? I think our education system is a freaking mess. And,
sorry about that, bro.
Yeah, what do you call
it? My bad.
Damn, Tom, get your shit together.
I know, man. Come on, you need to wrap me up, son.
No, what do you call it? No, but I ran for the Board of Education here in PG County, right? And the reason why is we had moved out here. My son was going to DeMatha private school, and I had put my younger son into a middle school. And I walked into this middle school, and there's chains all through the wall lockers, right? So these lockers, they had them chained up, and everything was fenced off, and it was dark. And they got policemen in the hallways, telling kids, hey, don't run, don't do this. And to me, it's like, man, this is, these kids are 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and this is like a freaking prison, right?
Right.
And then down the road, there's high school, and what do you call it? It looks like an old Russian communist freaking factory, right? And I'm like,
Gulag.
how do kids walk into this building and say, man, this is the foundation of my future. This is where I'm going to build myself. When you go in there, it's a freaking shit show, right?
Right.
I mean, but then you go to other neighborhoods, right? You go 20 minutes down the road to a different neighborhood, and man, that place looks like a freaking major university, right? Public school. And you're like, different, no police in the hallway, no, And again, we've got to do something, right? To set the level field, we got to get the curriculum right. We got to get folks, and again, it's government, so it's hard to do. But we got to pay teachers, right? To me, we got to pay, because you can't get a 4-year degree for $200,000 and then freaking you're making $60K or whatever that number is, regardless of where you're at. And like, man, there's just no freaking, there's no attraction, right?
I have $85,000 in student loans left. And
that's my point, right?
And I've been teaching for 20 years. It's like, come on, man. I'm gonna die with those damn student loans.
Yeah, it's nuts to me. It's nuts to me the cost of education today, right? And it's kind of like, man, and you see some of these universities making a boatload of money off a lot of different things, and they're still putting that money and trying, and I got it. I understand making a profit, right? But when your profits outweigh your outcomes, it's like to me, it's frustrating. Like my son right now, he goes to Florida Tech, doing great things, and I'm paying for his college out of, we don't qualify for financial aid or any of that, so everything's out of pocket.
Not.
I don't get any tax breaks or anything on the school because we've already crossed that. So I'm paying, I think, in the last 8 months, I've paid over $60K out of pocket.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, imagine that. And that's my commitment to all three of my sons. Say, when you guys graduate from your 4 years, you're going to have zero debt.
Right.
But I'm over here like, man, I'm living like I'm freaking back in college to get these guys through college, right? It's like,
you got that top ramen? You got that top ramen
yeah,
going?
I got top ramen. I can't even afford that anymore. Shoot. I'm just watering the seasoning. That's it. But I mean, but to me, I mean, there's some things that need to be done, and I think,
Do you think it's easier to do it from a private area, or do you think it's easier to do it on a socialized way? Or I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, your brother went to private school, you went to a public school. Does any of those things resonate with you? I mean,
let me tell you, I'm not a big fan of the private schools, right?
right.
Just because of my experiences, and I was paying for my son to get through high school $24,000 a year, right?
Man.
And it was a lot of money, right?
It's a lot of money.
But after 2 years, I pulled him out. I was like, man, this is. I just wasn't happy, right?
Right.
And I moved to a more affluent neighborhood, put him in a different high school, and guess what? Everything that I was getting for $24,000 a year out of this school, I was getting there and then some.
Right.
And it was like, it just blew my mind. I'm like, man, right? But
I told Rick, I was like, what's going to happen? Why are they going to pay you your tuition to go to St. Paul to be online? Why would you go to online school at St. Paul when you can go to Whittier?
Well, that's the same thing with college, right? Well, I'm not going to send my son to Florida Tech, and pay X amount of dollars. Well, I'm going to send you to local JC and you can get the same credit hours for freaking, for X dollars, right? So, I mean, this is a unique environment, a unique time, right? And,
sure.
And I think Florida Tech is an outstanding job in terms of getting the kids on campus and doing the right things to make sure infections, don't come rampant, and someone gets infected, they can isolate them. And the other piece is a bunch of smart kids there, right? They don't understand, right? So they're kind of. That was one of the great things about my boy going to Florida Tech, right? Is because he's always been my cerebral kid, very smart, Dungeons and Dragons, didn't care about athletics and all this. And he gets to Florida Tech, and like his first week there, I'm like kind of concerned. Like, the son doing all right, my youngest, right? He's like, oh, Dad, I love it here. So I'm finally at a place where people are like me, And I was like, oh man, bingo, right? Awesome. Oh, great. Yeah. But again, so there's a lot of things that have to be done with the school system. I don't have all the right answers. When I ran for the Board of Education here at PG County, I discovered really quickly they had disempowered the board, and basically they were a mouthpiece for the promotion of education. And they gave the CEO all the power. They gave him the power of the purse, the power of just hiring, firing, just kind of like. And it was just, to me, it was like, man, this is just. And,
no one to check him.
Yeah, it was just absurd to me. They finally fired him after a few years. I thought they should fire him in year one, but and I've met him a few times and just what have you, right? More ego than
well, I'll put that guy on the hashtag so he can watch this if you want.
Yeah. So again, yeah. The bottom line is like we got to do something. We've got to invest. In our kids, we've got to invest in the sciences. We've got to invest in all this good stuff, right? Because technology's here. We're booming. We're going quickly, But I think certain folks are getting lost or getting more set behind, and other folks are being pushed in front, and it's harder to catch up nowadays, right?
Right.
And I think as a nation, I think we just got so much talent out there. And
I mean, the military allowed you to flourish in your talent. That's the funny thing. Not everybody has that door.
Well, again, with everything comes sacrifice, right? and how much you willing to sacrifice to get to where you're going to go. And to me, hey, the Army was, I tell folks, Turkey had made a thing regarding, people saying, hey, I don't like to be told what to do, right? It's like, that's taking the kill, because I always hear it from young troops, and I don't like to be told what to do. So, okay, well, how much money do you have in the bank account?
Right.
What do you mean, sir? So, how much money do you have in the bank account? I said, well, it's personal. I said, yeah. I said, do you have $1 million? Well, I don't have $1 million. I said, hey, then get prepared, because you're going to be told what to do for the rest of your life, man. If you don't like it, then freaking figure it out, man. Get educated, get yourself a well-paying job, and
All right.
Yeah, it's off topic.
All right, let's go with the speed. Let's do the speed round that you already know about. So we should have changed the questions on you, but let's give it a shot. These are just 50-50. Maybe I'll mix in some millennial ones or something for you. But,
yeah, there's a question about Vic being the answer. I don't even know what that was.
Oh, probably some. Yeah, I don't even know. All right, here we go. Elvis or Jerry Lee?
Elvis.
Beatles or Stones?
Stones.
Chuck D or LL Cool J?
LL Cool J. Sorry.
Ford or Chevy?
Chevy.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Whiskey or tequila?
Whiskey.
Android or iOS?
iOS.
Baseball or football?
Football, yeah.
Blonde or brunette?
Brunette.
J-Lo or Selma?
Selma.
Batman or
it's the most pondered over question that we get, but Selma wins in a landslide.
Yeah, I mean, me and Chuck see guys like looking over their shoulder, like,
yeah.
with Selma. How about this one? This is an interesting one. I can't wait to hear. World War II or Vietnam? Or you don't have to answer.
Well, I mean, say Vietnam.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you for pondering it. It's a tough question. And I don't even know if this one's going to resonate as much as it does for all our California people, but Vin Scully or Chick Hearn?
Yeah, I used to like Vin Scully.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, right on. Listen, man, I appreciate you coming on. As we spent, you gave us a lot of time today, and it's been a real pleasure. Like I said, it's been a lot for me. I love to connect with you. I feel like you're family to me. So when I really have my ears open when the family is talking, and I appreciate you spending some time with us, man. It's going to be good. It's going to take us a little time to edit all this stuff up, but it's going to be good.
No, yeah, I appreciate that. Really, one of my primary motives coming on here and talking this with you is for my kids, right? My three boys kind of get a little bit of thought and say, hey, go back and look at this. And, and they'll call bullshit on me. They say, Dad, you're full of shit, right?
Yeah.
But really, this kind of, it meshes with my message to them, right?